Alright, so this is a tour of my not too complicated 2 base. I have acquired the creative vending upgrade and all the infinity armor and all the creative items. So there will be lag spikes because this is an endgame base, but I'll just begin my starting cobblestone platform, which I never bothered to clean up. I used chorus flares for EMC. Here some vindicators full of emeralds. This is wither skeletons, I believe, because wither skulls for one of the elements. I believe it is mendelevium. The skulls, so that's that. Blaze rods, but I have seeds for that now. This is my only latex production that I ever used for the entire game, since eventually you can get Mystic Agriculture for it. Distillation tower, don't use anymore. Ether gas, don't really use anymore, but I kept it running because why not? Got 1.5k buckets. Compact projector, which I don't use anymore. These machines for sulfuric acid, your first sulfuric acid production, again, don't use anymore. Most of this is stuff that I don't use anymore, like the smeltery I haven't used in ages. Nether portal. Over here is a little mob duplication area, because you do need a couple mobs to spawn in for stuff like this gem armor, but it's very manual. So there's that. Right, now let's get on over here, where this is my lag. This is my setup for what's it called? Refined glue. Stuff here, which you get from resin, which you get from an arboreal extractor. I probably should have set up these, the fluid extractors, but I couldn't be bothered. So I just had a bunch of spruce trees going into this one fractionating still, which did take a while because I did need to produce a bunch of the populated stuff for singularities, but it ended up working out in the end. So now we get to the fun stuff, which is the actual base, which is probably going to be very laggy. So this is power. So I have a bunch of tier 8 solar panels going into induction matrix. This always remained full, so there's never any issues there. Over here, there's enchanting, pretty basic. My power flares, obviously I made these after creative vending, but I only got 8. This is called agriculture, better end thing. This is all my locked drawers for creative vending upgrade, and what I will show you how to do is how to do the locked drawer trick. So I got a drawer and a hopper and a creative vending upgrade. So because you only get one from the craft, you need to somehow replicate it. So what you do is you get an unlocked drawer. That's very important, that it needs to be unlocked. You grab a key. You want to put the vending upgrade into the hopper, and it will put it into the slot there. You can then lock it and then extract it, and there will be 0 in that slot. You can then apply the vending upgrade to the drawer, and then you'll have infinite, and you can extract as many items as you want. So that way you only need one vending upgrade and one of these, and thus you only need one of every singularity. So what I did here on this wall was I would put in an item, and then I would take it out. But since the drawer is locked, it would have 0 of that item. So all I did was I put in items, and then once I had the vending upgrade, I did the trick, which you just saw there, and then applied it to all of these items. So now I have infinite of everything here. That's how I was able to make all the creative items using only one of everything you need in this recipe, or at least the minimum amount. Anyway, just thought I'd explain that. So over here, we have my mystical agriculture farm, or at least the setup I had for singular seeds. So a few of these got swapped out as time progressed and I didn't need them anymore. It's just all the fairly basic stuff. I did start to have drawers for some of the ingots because for some reason compacting drawers are much better than normal drawers. But some items I just have directly importing into the ME system because I got the 16 million storage parts. Over here we have the wither cages, didn't really use for anything else. Over here, thermal evaporation towers, just to get a bit of lithium for the induction cells and what have you. This is the bulk mystical agriculture processing. So I did originally have experience seeds and endstone seeds here, but as I got enough endstone and experience, I swapped them out for nether stars and Neutronium. And they just go into crafters and tangled blocks, so on and so forth. Over here is antimatter. So this was one of my biggest bottlenecks in producing materials for the creative vending upgrade, because you need like hundreds of thousands for the antimatter relay singularity. But it's just a bunch of aqueous accumulators going into separators, going into rotary condensators. I did start out making antimatter with the anti-proton gas recipe, and I switched over to anti-hydrogen gas towards the end of the pack because it is more efficient, even though it takes an extra few machines. But each accelerator has 3 basic machine upgrades. I have a big row of 11 lead magma crucibles running into this, making proton fluid, and then did get a little bit janky at the end because of the space constraints that I had. So I used a bunch of entangled blocks to transfer the fluids around. So you see this one here in the whaler is making the anti-hydrogen fluid, which goes in here and gets converted. And I only have 2 crystallizers, but that was enough. And then this is my endstone drawer that I moved over. The endstone is very easy. Same with the experience pearls, because this is all connected to the ME system. Now I might as well show you over here. So this is the Opinium Core Tower production facility. So one of the most grindiest parts of the mod pack is getting 42 exactly infinity ingots, which you need to make the creative ending upgrade. And each one takes an infinity catalyst. Each catalyst takes 4 pearls. Each pearl takes 4 nether star Opinium cores. Now, each of these requires 4 of the previous tier, and the math works out so that in order to get 1 nether star Opinium core, you require 16,000 of these iron Opinium cores, which is crazy. And they each take half a second to produce, which you can see there, 500 FE at 5,000 FE per tick. Actually, I don't think that's half a second. I think it's instant, but in my tests, I found it to be half a second. So I made a tower of 64 combination crafters being fed by these EMC links here. I have them turned off because of lag, but trust me that these were connected here. So I have EMC links set to iron, coal, and matter balls. And the matter balls, I am using an interface here to provide the matter balls and some integrated dynamics wiring so that I could have an interface, which meant that I can import and export simultaneously, which I believe is not possible with pipes. So that way I didn't have to use entangled blocks, and it was very easy to sort of scale to this degree. And then that just goes into a drawer, and then I have 64 of here, and then I have 64 of the gold ones. So 64 iron and 16 of the gold ones, because it's the 4-to-1 ratio, if you remember. And I have a very similar setup. Then here's diamonds, and I have 4 of those, again, with the 4 needed for each. And then for these extra ones, I just have a single setup. So the netherite, the emeralds, the chorus, the experience, and the final ones. So with the semi-stable ingot, I just ended up having a drawer filled with like 600 or however many you need. And we just have a connection to the ME system here. So this took the longest. So if you're doing this, I highly recommend setting this up ASAP, because even with this absolutely monstrous overkill setup, it still took many, many hours in order for it to produce the amount that you need, because I believe it's around 11 million of the iron Opinium cores, these guys here. And they also have a singularity, but this is 10,000. That's nothing compared to the millions of these that you need. So yes, start this ASAP. Moving right along, this is just my general auto crafting area. It's very standard interfaces, machines, the whole shebang. Made the rainbow furnace because it's a stack every tick. It's crazy good. This is just some mechanism stuff. Lazy AE2. There used to be a lot more lazy AE2 machines here, but I eventually moved them downstairs for passive processing. But I did leave some of them here. Over here, this is the ultimate ingot. This isn't my sum total of alchemistry machines. I'll get to the rest of them later. But these are specifically for the ultimate ingot. So there are 27 interfaces here. So each interface supports 3 chemical combiners making ingots. You can see them in here. This took ages. It was very grindy, but I do think it was worth it because they weren't too bad to produce once I'd set this up. These patterns go towards the chemical dissolvers, which I will show you in just a second. That's what these are for. Over here is just general passive random stuff that I had to do. So this is how I produce matter balls, these condensers here, all linked to this, which was making cobblestone, feeding into the condensers and going into the ME system. But this was very laggy, so I turned it off once I had the millions that I needed. Right, so over here, this is just producing mineral and chorus. Very simple. Squeezer, drying basin, This is connected to my chorus plants that were over on the cobblestone platform, so that's where I get the chorus fruit from. Over here was my first automatic HDPE setup with dandelions, crusher, HDPE, the usual setup. But I did swap this. Well, I didn't swap it over, but I made a better system of this later on downstairs, which you will see. Then just some production of soulstone, which comes from igneous extruders down here. I made a bunch of them. It was very overkill, but it was pretty cool, and it made it very, very fast. So it's just producing soul dust for the heads for the skulls. You need a lot of these skulls in order to make the all the various slice and splice these things here. So that's that. These they used to only be 3 enrichment chambers here, but I had a bit more for making these better end materials here. I do have another array of them somewhere else in the base though, but you need a lot of these crystal shards and ender shards. So this is automation for that. It's automatically going into this drawer here. This here is clear glass, I believe. You need a lot of this, but one machine was fast enough that I produced the amount that I needed. What is this here? Oh yeah, this is a crafter for Klein stars, so it speeds up the process of making energy collectors. This is just a essence tank to power the mob duplicator. This, I believe, is for treated wood, because you need a bunch of treated wood for pity machine frames for a singularity. These guys here do require a bunch of treated wood for this, so this was auto crafting for that. I never passived it because it was never any need. This is auto crafting for all the blocks for all of the frames. So instead of using RF Tools crafters, I just have a compacting drawer. It's extracting only the blocks out. This is insanely fast, very, very good. What else do I have over here? This is temporary for making Neutronium for the fission recipe, but eventually I got seeds, so this is now useless. Auto crafting for dissolution chambers and assemblers. So this is what makes all the PCB components and all that business. My end resin processor that I never took down because I couldn't be bothered. Yeah, so this is my AE2 central zone where I just have a manual quantum compressor for the singularities, just have a random infuser and centrifugal separator for random stuff that I needed, and my manual crafting tables. So here I had recipes set up for the singularities and the vending upgrade business. My ender chest, which, oh, there's my configurator. I was looking for this. Didn't know I left it there. Here, max QIO drive array, just for fun. Obviously, I'm never going to use any of this, but it was a fun project. So I believe this is the best one storage block in Minecraft, because it's like 16 billion items times 16. That's a lot of items. I don't think you'll ever fill one of these up. Modification station. Even though I never made the mecha suit, all I made was this, which is very cool. TPs you around. It's like the aspect of the void from Skyblock, if you've played that. Lots of fun. But I only made this towards the end, so it didn't see very much use. I guess let's have a quick scan through the interface terminal. As you can see, most of these are for alchemistry. What I will show you though, if any of you want to pause and have a look, is the fusion chamber recipes, because that was probably one of the hardest things that I found. So this right here, this is all the fusion. So if you want, you can pause and see what recipe I used for each one. Generally, I tried to make it so that fusion didn't use other fusion in the recipe. I wanted it so that it used like something very easy and mass producible in order to obtain it. So that's why I made some of the decisions in the recipes here. I've noticed one thing that a lot of people do is they'll just add hydrogen to whatever the previous element is in order to get some of the higher tier ones, but occasionally that's not very useful. So I tried to make the ones that would be as fast as possible. So that's that. But down here, there is a bunch of more automations. So first off, we have passive production of all extended crafting ingots. So this was for redstone alloy. This one was for, I believe, ender ingots. They're not running now, but I believe this was passively making ender ingots, because you need millions and millions of these extended crafting ingots in order to beat the pack. And this one here is for, I believe, black iron, and it's not running at the moment. I'm not quite sure why, but I did have to expand this to include 3 fluid encapsulators. But this whole area here is just constantly producing. Oh yeah, I disconnected it. There you go. it's just constantly producing the three extended crafting units. So over here is HDPE, my expanded setup. Now, I've seen a lot of people use this custom recipe here with the ethanol and the sulfuric acid. I found this to be good, but very annoying and complicated to set up, whereas these PRCs here are very good at what they do, which is producing ethylene. So I have 5 of these, and I found that 5 of these can fully support one fluid encapsulator that's maxed out, that's running constantly at 1 item every tick, which is the operation that it can support. So if you have 5 PRCs constantly running, that perfectly balances out 1 fluid encapsulator, and then you'll need 3 ultimate maxed enrichment chambers to keep up with the HDPE production for this guy right here. And I just have, well, I had oxygen being imported from the system right here. And I just have a power pot with dandelions, or I did at least have a power pot with dandelions, providing all of the biofuel. So that's that, and then I have some entangled blocks for power and liquid supply because, yeah. So that's that. That's the Solium production that we saw earlier. Right, now let's get to lazier AE2. So in order to craft the relays, these dudes here, you need vast amounts of 256k ME storage components. Like you need, I don't think it's in the millions, but it's definitely in the hundreds of thousands. So this setup here is fully passiving these 256k disks. And there's a lot of circuit etchers and a lot of these guys here, the pulse centrifuges, and it's all to producing this one here. I have it turned off extraction at the moment, but this is just constantly feeding the ME system. So I'm not going to fully explain the super complicated cables and wiring here, but just know that everything here is fully automatic, constantly producing all of these different wafers and etchers and so on and so forth. And because everything has EMC, except for I think the silicon, but that has seeds, so it's easy peasy. Like if I check now, I probably still have like millions and millions of silicon. Let's have a look. Yeah, I've 1.5 million sheets. That's definitely enough. So yeah, I have a bunch of circuit etchers which are fully automatic. This isn't like auto crafting at all. This is just passive import from the system, send back to the system, because you need these constantly running if you want to beat the pack in any reasonable amount of time. I believe this is making all the extra stuff like glowstone blocks and quartz glass. There is a little bit of extra non-lazy AE2 processing that you have to do. In terms of the calculation ones, I have 3 circuit etchers dedicated to making calculation processes, and I chose to use this recipe here with the block of Certus quartz as opposed to the enrichment chamber here, just because I'd have to make like a really big factory of enrichment chambers, and I found it a lot easier to just set up a bunch of these pulse centrifuges here. So that's that. And then, yeah, I think that's enough explanation for that. You definitely want this automated ASAP for the making the collectors. Right, so now over here I have 8 big CPUs with 116 million storage and a bunch of co-processors. I did have a couple cases where all 8 CPUs were being used, but otherwise it was plenty. It was more than enough, except when I had a bunch of big jobs going on. Here we have 2 arrays of 32 molecular assemblers and interfaces. So this is 64 total, and this was essentially the perfect amount to beat the pack. Like I think I had a couple of slots left, so this was a perfect amount. These 2 towers right here. Over here is the drives, way overkill. As you can see, I only barely scratched the surface with this slot here. So they're all 16 million. So you'll never fill this up. I thought I was going to, but yeah, it was never really an issue. I only made 8 ME controllers because you get plenty of P2P tunnels. It's just plenty. So I only made 8, but yeah. So over here, this was my original passive automation of ender stars. But eventually I realized that this is this is not fast enough. So I built a bit bigger setup, which I'll show you in a moment. But this is automation for eyes of ender stars, because you need a lot of ender stars. All right, this is automation of I believe eternal crystals. Yes, eternal crystals, because again, you need like millions of eternal crystals in order to beat the pack. You need them for the Mark II condenser. You need 8 per, and you need 10,000 of these for a singularity. And you also need them for, I believe, one of the Ender IO stuff. Can I spell, please? Where is it? Here, yes. You need 80,000 of these for this, and so that's like 320,000 of these. So that's a lot. So The nice thing about packaged auto is that it's not directly reliant on the ME system. So a little bit of a demonstration. Here I'm importing the crystal shards and the ender shards from an interface, and I'm exporting them into these packages here. And what it does is it looks at this recipe here, this recipe holder, and it says, okay, do I have the ingredients in order to make this package? And if it says yes, it'll do a process and it'll make this here. So what this package contains is everything it needs in order to unpack this recipe here. So what you can then do is you can extract these packages into the unpackages, and then they will just unfill whatever their contents are. And here I've got the combination package crafter, which is the unpackager, sorry, is pushing its contents into here and then crafting it. And then I believe I have a bunch of entangled blocks. Yeah, here you go. Here's all the entangled blocks for the internal crystals. So that's going into the slice and splice automation, which I will show in a moment. But I'd just like to explain that package auto is not directly reliant on the ME system in order for auto crafting. It's not the best, because, well, okay, if you want to do it super large scale like the opinion cores over there, it's not the best. It's a lot easier to automate the actual crafting core itself from the extended crafting mod. But this is very good if you want sort of complex recipes automated in a very neat way. Right, so let's show the slice and splice automation. So this is, once again, fully automatic. There's no on-demand crafting going on here. So this first one is for Z-Logic controllers. So we're importing a bunch of items here from the ME system. This is all from either EMC, seeds, or other automations. I do have the graphite electrodes turned off at the moment, but otherwise it would be producing those. So we're essentially just sending items into crafters, crafting stuff, sending into slice and splice, exporting into other slice and splice, and then going back into the system. So this is passive Z-Logic controllers. I was very proud of this setup because it worked, it did everything I needed it to do, and it produced them very quickly. So I would recommend building one of these if you don't want to be waiting days and days on the slice and splice. So this one here was a bit more annoying simply because the Ender Resonator takes eternal crystals, and these are very, very slow if you don't have a super setup like I have over there. So Endurium is seeds. This comes from the previous automation, and this is just a crafter, I believe. Yes, this makes Enderman heads. And then the eternal crystals I'm having pulled in from entangled blocks. As you can see, I originally only had one combination crafter for eternal crystals, and this was definitely not fast enough. So I added a bunch more, as you can see over there. But this is automatically making end crystals. So it's making Eyes of Ender, end crystals. And I think I'm entangling this crafter or this unpackager and sending it over there or something like that. Okay, so that's that. Now, over here, this was my original setup for opinion cores. I had 16 for the iron, 4 for the gold, and then a bunch for the diamond and so on. But I soon discovered that this was definitely not fast enough, so I built that super 64x setup that you saw earlier. But I thought I'd just show this off because while this was good, and I did utilize packaged auto instead of just the default combination crafter, it wasn't fast enough. So I went for that 64x setup. You probably could get away with this if you were willing to wait more than me, but I didn't want to wait. I didn't want to AFK for the rest of my life. So can I get out of this cable, please? There we go. All right, so we continue on. Over here is, what is this? These are isotope separators, I think, for all of the fuels. Yeah. So for some reason I made a dedicated machine for each fuel type. It was complete overkill, but it's a pretty cool system. I do like it. Very, very simple. It's just auto crafting, nothing to it. Right, over here, this is passive creation of fluorite dust, Certus quartz dust, what is this, fluix dust, and skystone dust, and finally, coal dust. So all these things are used in the creation of speculation cores. So if we take a look at the speculation core here, you'll see that one, it needs to be made in this machine here, but it takes matter balls, which we produce elsewhere, skystone dust, and then coal dust and fluix dust. And I don't know what the Certus dust is for. I think that's for something else. Anyway, but here I have fluix aggregators. They are turned off once again for lag purposes. But I have fluix aggregators, 4 of them, and they are constantly, well, they were constantly producing speculation core times 1, because you need 640,000 of these in order to make the this, which you need 10,000 of for the singularity. So definitely set this up early as well, because you don't want to be waiting on these, because these machines are slow. Even with max upgrades, it is not a good time. So you definitely want to automate this, have a bunch of crushers, just do it, just set it up. Right, now, over here, this is a bunch of more auto crafting for extended crafting tables. So you have my first combination crafter here. Obviously, I don't use this anymore because I have passive automation set up, but this is just auto crafting for a bunch of the random extended crafting recipes that are in this mod pack, and there's a lot of them. So I kept expanding this so the cables get a little bit messy, but it's in the basement, so nobody sees it anyway. This is the first setup I had for making the Ender Crafter. So you can see I've got all the recipes in there, and yeah, does its job. Right, now let's move on over here. This was my final passive automation for the Better Forge materials here, the Ender Shards and the Crystal Shards, because once again, the enrichment factories up there were not fast enough, so I had to add more. And this was the final one. So in total, I think I had around 14 enriching factories for making all this stuff. So the Eternal Crystals take quite the setup in order to make. I would definitely recommend having a bunch of these set up, your Eternal Crystals. So this here is for the Ultimate Conglomerate, these additional chemical combiners. So it's not strictly necessary in order to make the Ultimate Conglomerate. This dude right here. So you do need at least one post-vending in order to make the Infinity Armor. And I guess if you want to make the this random Project E stuff, you do need a bunch for the Singularity. So this was more of just a fun project to do anyways while I was waiting for the other stuff. Because while it is used in one recipe for the Ultimate Singularity, it's for some reason it's not used in this recipe. So I don't really know why that is, but I did it because it was fun. And it was enjoyable. And it wasn't that slow anyway, compared to stuff like the Opinium cores and the antimatter, which you can see more of the antimatter machines down here. These collision chambers are for making, what is that in the whaler? I believe that is positron fluid. Anyway, so now we have the fusion reactors from our chemistry. So I ended up making 7 of them in total. You can see all the recipes in there. I have around 8 or 7 recipes in each fusion reactor. It's very, very hectic. There was a lot of fusion to do in this mod pack. I would recommend when you start making ultimate ingots, automate it the first time you produce it, because it will take a long time, but then you just have it done and then you can set it, forget it, and it will just work whenever you need it to. But this was, again, one of the longest parts of the mod pack, but not too bad, just extracting into the interface. I did have to filter all of this. I don't know if that's necessary, but I did it anyway. All right, so now let's move on over here to the fission and the dissolvers for our chemistry. So I didn't do too much fission. There's only a few recipes that I did, but these are the ones here. I do have another interface over here, these recipes, and these two were actually enough. These never bottlenecked me, which I found very good. So this is an array of 64 dissolvers. So what I'm doing is I have a obsidian barrel here, which is linked up to these interfaces here, and I also had to add some additional ones right here for the ultimate conglomerate later on. So I am extracting out with a bunch of integrated dynamics importers, and I used integrated dynamics because I thought it would be less hard on the TPS, which it was, which is pretty good. Because apparently pipes is very bad on your TPS, especially with the ultimate upgrades. So we're just extracting into the bottom of these dissolvers here, and then we're importing from the top back into the interface. And you can see I was automatically processing silicon dioxide there for a while as well, because I needed all that oxygen for HDPE over there. And I had like a million silicon dioxide lying around, so I was like, why not? But yeah, just not super complicated, just a bunch of dissolvers, importing into them, extracting into them. I made sure to set this up in a way such that I didn't have like a dissolver per recipe. I had it so that all the recipes would be dumped into this one input, which then would go into the dissolvers en masse. So it would, whatever needed doing, it would just do it and go at max speed the whole time. So we weren't waiting on one dissolver while another dissolver was free, sort of situation. All right, let's go down to the final level. So this is where I have mechanism fission. So I have a bunch of aqueous accumulators to sort of preload the reactor with water. But once you get it up and running, it's a closed loop because you can send the water inside the steam turbine and pump the water out of the steam turbine back into the fission reactor. So I did end up having 2 fission reactors, one for the custom fuels from Cube.js, all of these nuclear craft style ones, And then I had another one for Neutronium, which I used these pellets for, these reprocessed fissile fragments. Yes. So this is a very good recipe, by the way, because I thought I was going to have to process a bunch of these, nuclear craft fuels to get neutron fluid or neutron gas or whatever it's called. But the reprocessed fragments here come from hydrogen chloride and plutonium-242, which comes from the clumps, which comes from plutonium ingots. And I did the maths, and it turns out that in order to get your 4 blocks of neutronium here, I won't do the whole calculations, but in order to get your 4 blocks, in order to get the seed, you only need like 200 ingots of plutonium processed this way through the injection factory, and that will give you, I believe, around 6,000 fissile fragments, which you can then just run through here, and it will give you nuclear waste directly. So you can see I've got a pipe going all the way over here into the centrifuge, and this goes back up to the solar activator, which you saw back up near the ME terminals. Yeah, so that's that. I have 3 PRCs here for making the nuclear craft, well, not the nuclear craft, but the custom reprocessed fuels. The Californium-250 singularity does look scary, but it's not actually that bad because you get 5 for each recipe that you do here, and for each fuel that you process, you actually get 2,000 millibuckets. So I believe the ratios turn out to be around maybe 400 of the MOX, then maybe 500 of the LECM, these ones here, and then I believe it's 1,000 of the HECFs in order to get your singularity. So not too bad at all. This only took around 8 to 10 hours, I believe. So this was a pretty well designed part of the pack. I thought it wasn't too grindy, and it was lots of fun setting up fission as always. So here is the big Endercrafter tower. So I have 9 fully maxed out Ender alternator crafters, all producing Ender stars, which go in here. You can see there's a bunch. This is just what's been backlogged. Have entangled blocks entangled to all of the outputs all the way up. So again, we're using the same packaged auto system. So over here, we are extracting from this interface, which I believe is extracting Eyes of Ender. Then no, this is extracting Nether stars. This is extracting Eyes of Ender, and we are sending them into packages. Now, the reason we are using integrated dynamics here instead of pipes is because integrated dynamics allows you to insert on a slot basis. So if we take a look inside one of these exporters, you can see we are filtering for Eyes of Ender, but if I have a look in here, item slot number 1. So it is only going to insert into the number 1 slot of the inventory, which is in this case, this one right here. If we take a look in here, we're importing Nether stars, and it is on item slot 2 right there. So it is only going to insert into the number 2 item slot. And because integrated dynamics works on a 0-based index system, this one here is slot 0, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, etc. So one of the benefits of using integrated dynamics over pipes is you can specify which slot, and so it won't overfill with Nether stars or Eyes of Ender or any of that. So we are packaging up our Ender star recipes. We're sending them into the unpackages, and these are all linked to various spots, as you can see, that are highlighted in the huge stack there. Then we're extracting out the Ender stars into this compacting drawer, which is just going into one Ender crafter here, which is doing the blocks, I believe, of enhanced Ender, because there is a recipe for doing blocks plus blocks equals blocks, which is very, very good, because otherwise you'd need a lot more if you had to do this recipe here. So we're, of course, getting Ender ingots from the system, where we had them passively made from before, blockifying them, importing from that compacting drawer down there, putting them into a packager. Again, we're using the integrated dynamics insert on a slot-by-slot basis. And then somewhere up there, we're extracting the enhanced Ender ingots and storing them. So if we have a look here, I did turn it off, but we have 58k spare from the from the several thousands that you need, because it takes 8 per catalyst, and you need 16 catalysts per relay, and you need 10,000 of these. But you also need them for these ones. So you just need a lot. You need hundreds and thousands. So definitely automate this. This didn't end up being a bottleneck, but it definitely could have been. So watch out for that. So one thing I would recommend is don't make any of like the infinity armor or the infused armor until you have the vending upgrade. So I stuck with gem armor, but without the leggings because I don't like how it makes you move. So I stuck with gem armor throughout the whole game. It's very, very good. Would recommend. Gives you night vision, step assist, all the good stuff. I'll show you a trick with the power flowers. So first of all, the quest for the power flowers is somewhere here. Yes. So final star shard gives you 3 as a reward. It looks like 1, it's actually 3. So what you can do is you can craft yourself a final relay. Okay, I prepared a bunch of items. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to save up enough EMC with your fading power flowers. These ones here, which make 19 billion per second. You're going to want to save up enough in order to make 1 final star shard using these 8 colossal star omegas. So then you can upgrade one of your fading relays to a final relay. And if you see here, it has a relay bonus of 1 trillion EMC per second. Now, compared to the flowers, which is only 19 billion per second, that is a crazy jump. So the way that this works is you place down your final relay, you place down your energy condenser Mark II next to the relay, and then you surround your relay with any collectors of any type. It can be Mark 1. I'm just using Mark 3s here as an example. But what these collectors will do is they'll take the bonus of the relay whenever they put EMC into the energy condenser. So this is not actually going to make 1 trillion EMC per second. This is going to make 4 trillion because I have 4 collectors here. So if I grab myself a Colossal Star Omega, one of these guys here, let's just have a look and see how fast the EMC goes up. So you can see the boom, like it's going up in increments of 4 trillion every time, every second. And this is with 1 final star shard. This is with one of the final relays. So would highly recommend once you get to the point where you have the fading matter, but it's just the big long grind in order to make the final star shards. You do not need to make the flower before you start generating. You can just make 1, get the final relay, then start juicing out with Colossal Star Omegas in your energy condenser Mark II. Would definitely recommend this, and then obviously once you get enough, you can make more relays, and then you can make the collectors, and then eventually you can make the flare, and then it's just easy peasy from then on. But yeah, would definitely recommend this for EMC production. And again, you only need 8 of the final power flowers because you can stick them in a drawer, lock it, and then extract the 8 you need, make the final star shard, do the drawer locking business, and then there you go. So yeah,